Just before I begin this video, a quick note. Obviously, I'm going to be speaking about some sexual themes and some quite hard things to listen to throughout the video. So if it isn't for you, this may not be a video you want to watch. Now, it wasn't that long ago that Western culture had quite firm boundaries over sexual content and sexual behaviour. The belief was that sex was an act best kept in the realm of marriage between a man and a woman, thereby promoting emotional bonds between said man and women and the sanctity of the family. But also, of course, from a Christian context, kept the soul from getting ensnared in the fires of the passions that can consume our inner peace and create outer chaos. Now, we can see the change in our cultural sexual norms in the idea of something like a womanizer. You know, back in the day, a womanizer was something shameful. You were breaking apart marriages, breaking apart families for your own pleasure, for your own gratification. That's not a very nice thing to do. However, nowadays, the womanizer is seen more in a positive light. It's cool, it's edgy, it's James Bond, it's the rapper, it's the guy who gets laid all the time. And we can broadly see this as a shift between a collective understanding of who we are as a people and a culture to an individualistic mindset where it's about my pleasure, about being number one. And now we're in this strange world where we have our grandparents' generation who grew up in the traditional world, and their grandkids are growing up in a world where the most visited websites on earth are pornographic ones, where women sleep with hundreds if not thousands of men in a day for social media clout, where we have, quote, right-wing podcasts featuring porn stars to talk about a healthy sex life. I guess you could say this all started with the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s, where youngsters pushed against the stuffy religiosity of their parents for a, quote, free, happy life of expression. In many ways, we're just living out the after effects of that revolution in modernity. And like I've spoken about before, we struggle to see the dark side of liberalism today. We tend to view the 1960s revolution as a positive thing. The Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, free love and so on. Of course, the shadow side is social breakdown, degeneracy. Smut is everywhere. Because our mythos, our tradition, our culture has been destroyed, we have no defence against this sort of thing anymore. And I'm sure even making this video will upset some people. They'll do the meme I posted on my Substack recently of modern day liberalism, where we just want to imbibe pleasure after pleasure. As soon as you say it's getting weird, people will just scream at you because people just want to, quote, enjoy things. And that's very much the received wisdom of today. If somebody wants to smoke heroin, put an earring in their testicles, or even film pornography, what's it to you? It's their life, they're not harming anybody. Of course they are harming people, starting with themselves and then following on the collective. However, it takes strong male elders to implement this wisdom, but we destroyed those in the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s. What it leads to is women like this. This is a Riley Reid. She is or was a porn star, I'm not quite sure, and she's figuring out that it's basically ruined her life in a relationship with her family.
I've lost my whole family and it sucks. So a lot of times when people ask me if they should do porn, I tell them no. I tell them that it makes life really hard. It makes dating really hard. It makes your family life really hard. It makes intimacy hard. You're putting yourself out there and the world is now judging you. You have to be okay with being shamed every day of your life.
Now, I feel sorry for this girl. She's made some very bad decisions at a young age, but she's engaging in this typical feminist liberal ideology here as well when she states that she's being shamed for her decisions. Now, I don't know where her father is in all of this, but it was his role to teach her that people aren't shamed by society for things like this, but they bring shame on themselves. After all, sexual interaction between men and women forms the basis of civilization. Women have an innate value. It's up to a man to develop physically, mentally, intellectually, build his resources and capacities in the world to become worthy of mating with someone of the opposite sex. That holds society together in a healthy, progressive manner. However, if you're willing to just give sex away to any, quite literally, Tom, Dick and Harry, especially Dick, you don't just undermine your own value, you undermine the value of the evolution of men and also the value and structure and integrity of our very society and civilization. This is why Riley Reid's family and people at large find Riley Reid's actions shameful. It's innate. It doesn't matter how much post-structural feminist ideology you imbibe, that will always be the case. So to recap, the 1960s sexual revolution saw a switch from a traditional model which focused on the collective and social organisation to the model of the individual, their pleasure and their material gain. Material gain may seem like an odd one given modern pornography websites are free and they have millions upon millions of videos. However, the truth is they're making lots and lots of money. They do this by mining visitors' data, and there are millions of visitors per day. And on top of that, they make a lot of money from ad revenue, just like YouTube, where eyes are, an advert can be placed and somebody is paying and earning from that. There's also the modern maxim that pornography these days is free because you are the product. This goes back to the theories of the Catholic thinker E. Michael Jones, who argues that the free availability of sexual material is actually a form of political control. His theory goes that the mass availability of sexual content creates a docile society that's essentially addicted to lust. That undermines the structure of the family because the man is out of control. It also promotes a sense of individualism, which again breaks down the collective interests, as aforementioned. Of course, this leads to a neoliberal system where corporate, economic and political powers can free rein. And adjacent to that is where the theories that certain groups are disproportionately involved in the pornography industry comes from.
No, Max, that's a very convenient out. Every time some group disagrees with you, it's because of anti-Semitism.
Don't you see the rest of the country looks upon New York like we're left-wing communist, Jewish, homosexual pornographers? I think of us that way sometimes, and I live here.
Whatever your beliefs are about that theory, the case for the defense wasn't helped recently when an ordained rabbi, Solomon Freeman, decided to buy Pornhub to make it more, quote, ethical. And making it more ethical, if that is the intention, is going to be no easy feat. Here's an excerpt from comedian Theo Von's podcast with Layla Mickelwaite, who's been campaigning against Pornhub.
The amount of content that was being uploaded to Pornhub, if you put those videos back to back, just the amount of content they would upload in 1 year, it would take 169 years to watch if you put those videos back to back. That's how much content was being uploaded.
Or had been uploaded total, you mean?
No, per year.
Wow.
Yes. That's not even counting the images.
Unbelievable.
So I tested I found out, like I said, what millions of people already knew, and that was that all it took to upload was an email address. So in under 10 minutes, anybody with an iPhone, anywhere in the world, can upload a video, and they were not checking age, they were not checking ID to make sure that these are not children in the videos, they're not verifying consent to make sure that these are not rape or trafficking victims. And because of that, I quickly understood that Pornhub was not a porn site, it was a crime scene. Like, it was infested with videos of real sexual crime.
Now, when all is said and done, we can blame the sexual revolution for this, left-wingers, liberals, capitalists, Jewish people, whatever. The harsh reality is, though, that the book has to stop with Western culture itself. We have to reawaken our tradition and start taking responsibility for the smut that's going into the minds of our young. Of course, pornography is just one dimension of the modern system of lust. There's also prostitution, hookup culture, and so on and so on. And each of these coalesce to essentially economically and politically control the West. Western culture is in the grip of these things, to my mind. And this is why I think we need to start breaking free. The future for me is in new communities that hold to traditional values that can actually push back against this sort of degeneracy. Such communities should aid men and women in moving away from the lusts and trapdoors of modernity and back into the peace of the spirit, and of course with that promote the sacred nature of men and women and the sexual union in marriage ideally. That of course leads to strong families, strong societies and strong communities. This is the sort of community I'm building on my Substack. I'm also aiming to offer coaching and courses and all sorts of exclusive things, as well as free things if you just want to check it out down below. Other than that, do let me know your thoughts about all this down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and do have a pleasant rest of the day.